Hey y'all, I'm sorry for literally going missing. Today you're reading Dying for Dummies by Chemically Imbalanced on AO3. It's really good Danny Phantom fanfiction. It is a crack fic. And I have a feeling I'm going to need to do so many takes because I've been laughing so hard every single time I've read this. Thank you so much for Chemically Imbalanced for letting me read this. With that, on to the summary. Teenage boys are stupid. That's one of life's many truths. Now, what happens when we give one of them the power to turn into a ghost every time he faces death? Pure crackhead energy. Just a collection of one-shots depicting the many ways Danny has explored his own death. Chapter 1, Looking Chipper, in which Tucker is most definitely over Danny's dumbassery, and Danny is certainly not a masochist. Trigger warning, mentions and descriptions of gore. Hey, Danny, don't you think you might be taking this a tad bit too far? Danny took his leg out of the wood chipper and gave Tucker a look of confusion, as if this was just another regular Thursday night at the park. Which, granted, for them it kind of was, what with Danny's new powers and all. The first time Danny had killed himself in front of Tucker, the boy had panicked. What were you supposed to do when your friend looked you dead in the eye and said, and I quote, "I'm feeling a little tuckered out," and then proceeded to shoot himself? How did he even get a hold of a gun in the first place? That remains a mystery to Tucker, and he preferred it that way. The initial shock was finally wearing off when his finger had been hovering over the call icon on his phone when Danny, in all his monochromatic gory glory, had simply stood up and gave him a cheeky grin, like he had just told the world's greatest joke. The first thing he did was cry and trap his friends between his arms. The second was punching Danny repeatedly while angrily yelling at him for being so stupid. So suffice to say, Danny's shoulder was sore for a week after. Come on. Can't we just ditch whatever new kink this is and go and get ourselves some pumpkin spice wraps? Look, Tucker, I just want to be able to test my body's limits without getting kink shamed by my best friend. Is that too much to ask for? Now shut it and help me into this wood chipper, please. This is gonna haunt my nightmares, isn't it? Did you just make a... No, not intentionally. Never intentionally. Tucker sighed as he helped his friend to his gory death. Honestly, couldn't he have chosen a less messy way to die this time? He was not going to enjoy picking pieces of Danny off himself afterward. You know, Danny, I think you have a problem. What led you to that epiphany? Well, first of all, you're taking a selfie in a wood chipper seconds before you die. Come on, Doug, it's for the meme. Won't it hurt? Well, yeah, but think of it like running a marathon. It hurts in the moment, but afterwards you get this feeling of accomplishment. So you're a masochistic adrenaline junkie now? I wouldn't say masochistic. Nope, I'm having my best friend kill himself for the meme. What has my life become? Danny gave him a signature dorky smile and patted his hat. Cheer up, dude. All I'm trying to do is live some spirits. Without hesitation, Tucker turned the wood chipper on, feeling the satisfaction bubble at hearing his friend's surprised yelp. In an instant, red ichor splattered everywhere. As if someone had popped a giant, and what he means giant, water balloon, if the water balloon was filled with red water and left a metallic taste in his mouth. He was starting to get way too comfortable with the whole concept of messy death, where he would have, once upon a time, fainted to the mere sight of a paper cut. Now he just shrugged off the arm sticking out of wood chipper. Must be stuck. He knew to turn off the machine when he shuddered and coughed up another bloody bomb hitting him square in the chest. Danny, I think you ruined my favorite sweater. Tucker looked down at the pale sweater, now tainted with gore. My dad made this. How am I supposed to blame my friend smeared on it? Hey, man, I say it looks metal as fuck. Tucker looked up to see the pulse-defiant version of his friend grinning at him like the madman he is. He bit back the smile threatening to appear on his face. Dude, that was awesome. What the fuck, Danny? No, seriously, have you ever been on a really tall slip and slide? I really don't want to know. It was just like that, but spicy. What the fuck does that even mean? It means what it means, he blankly stated, wiggling his fingers toward him. Ancient's cryptic fuck, come on. If we hurry, we can probably still make it to Starbucks before they close. Walking back, drinks in hand, happily chatting away, they heard an ear-splitting scream. Normally, they would have run off to fight whatever ghost had decided now was the perfect time for a fight or a good scare. They turned to each other in horror as they realized they'd forgotten one important detail. The wood chipper. Chapter 2. Fizzing Fields. Summary. Inspired by that one episode of South Park where Kenny eats a shit ton of Alka-Seltzers thinking they were just mints and just explodes. Please tell me I didn't imagine that episode. I was thinking about it recently. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Why is it that TV lies to young and impressionable teens? None of this would have happened if you'd just done a quick Google search, but no. You can't learn if you don't make mistakes, and honing up what was probably his stomach lining was probably one hell of a mistake. Dude, we told you this wouldn't work, and did you listen? Tucker asked, not bothering to look up from his PDA. Absolutely not, Danny said as he threw up yet another goop of red. I don't understand. How did this not work? Sam reached over and slapped him upside the head for sighing. How could you think that this would work? You can't really be that dense, can you? Well, hey guys, I think I know what went wrong, Tucker interrupted. Danny dude's got a bad case of cellulite poisoning. It doesn't explain what Danny started before more vomit bubbled out of his mouth into the toilet, leaving streaks of bubbling red ribbon in their wake. Oh, it's gonna be a bitch to clean. Maybe, I don't know, just a passing thought. South Park is an accurate description of real life, and maybe, just maybe, downing 80 Alka-Seltzers 10 times the recommended amount might not make you explode, but have some kind of seltzer poisoning. Sam pointed at Danny, who looked down in shame. Could you really blame him? It seemed achievable at the time. Actually, Sam, it's cellulite poisoning. Not important right now, Tucker. Guys, Danny felt like he was going to the brink of crying as he struggled through his words. No, this was important. He could get through the cloud filled his head. You guys are love. He couldn't hold back the sudden need to cry, and he threw himself at his friends. I just love you so much. Love you so much, please. The two friends froze. The shaking black mop of hair snuggled into them. It's a side effect, Tucker mouthed over to Sam, who simply nodded and took a hold of Danny's face. Danny, you want to sit? No, I can't do this. If I said I can't. He slurred, trying but failing to shake his head out of Sam's hands. It's like talking to a toddler, a really clingy toddler. It was kind of cute in a strange way, so long as you ignored the blood dripping out of his mouth and pulling in her hands. Then he spilled over, just as the tears in Danny's eyes had. It's okay, dude. Why don't we go up to your room? We can sit on your bed and cuddle. How about that? Tucker said, struggling in Danny's arms a bit as he tried to pull himself away. The trio ended up sprawled on the bathroom floor, Danny silently crying and bleeding all over his friends. Neither of them had the heart to move them. After a few minutes of just holding their friend, they felt the strange telltale sign of Danny's ghost form replacing the physical one. In an instant, the room was filled with content purr-like humming emitting from the sleeping boy. Is he purring? Tucker asked, a bit thrown back at the sudden change in demeanor from the ghost boy. While Fenton, the human, greeted his emotional personality with open arms, Phantom was much more secretive and closed off. It was strange to see Phantom in such an emotional state. Just be glad there aren't any ghosts around. He deserves to rest, ghost form or not. Both suddenly jumped as Danny cuddled closer to his friends, the purring growing louder and settling around them like a thick blanket. Should we tell him, about the purring? Sam turned to Danny. He looked the most at ease she'd seen him since the accident. Let's just keep this one to ourselves, Doc. She smiled, as both of them shifted into a more comfortable position. They were going to be here for a while, but they wouldn't have it any other way. Notes. I wasn't really planning on this turning out to be wholesome. It was kind of just wrote itself. Here you go, I guess. Also, sorry about the lack of update schedule. We're really nearing finals week, and I don't know what I'm doing, running this fanfic instead of studying, but that's that. Dying for Dummies, Chapter 3. Good day gone shitty. I couldn't get the thought of Danny drowning himself out of the toilet out of my head, so, well, here it is. There are no notes for this chapter. Shit. He hurriedly turned the corner as he frantically looked for the shadow to blend into, a loud crash echoing behind him. He needed to find a place to kill himself, and ASAP. That, or someone to stop and reel in his racing thoughts. Just then he caught sight of the staff bathroom and beelined towards it. He all but threw himself inside and locked the door behind him. Once inside, he slid down the door and let himself catch a breath, coughing up a lung or two on the way down. He was not made for athleticism. He was having a good day today. Not only did he get up in time this morning, but his mom had made his favorite breakfast. It was ecto-contaminated halfway to death. Pun very much intended. And a little on the burnt side, but those pancakes really hit the spot. It was midway through the school day, the middle of a well-deserved nap, when he felt a familiar chill escape his lungs. Seconds later, Ember crashed through the middle of the lecture, guitar in hand. Normally, he would have made his way towards the science lab. Glass shards, dissection kits were easy to find and scarily easy to steal without arousing suspicion. Towards the tantalizing arms of Thanatos, but he'd been resting in the arms of his twin brother during Lancer's English class across the school on the third floor. Yeah, he was really screwed. He tangled his fingers in his sweaty locks and banged his head against the door. When he was younger, his mother would have scolded him for the act, something about traumatizing brain cells and impairing cognitive function. To that, he let out a half-hearted chuckle. The trauma to his brain cells was minimal compared to his own. Plus, he was a teenage boy. It was bold of her to assume he had any brain cells. Pushing himself onto his feet, he took out in his surroundings. No student had ever actually been inside the faculty bathrooms. It was almost a cryptid of its own at this point, unlike the school, which is worn down and green in places that really shouldn't be. The bathrooms were clearly well kept. It was, really well kept. It was almost uncanny how it seemed to be directly clipped from some IKEA set. Ferns dangled from a few hanging pots over the sink, and luxury soaps adorned the counter. So this is where all the school funding goes. The sound of another crash pulled him out of the state of wonder. Whatever. As if a starter pistol. His racing thoughts revved the engine, slammed into the gas. How in the zone was he supposed to go here? The bathroom didn't even have a mirror for him to break and use. What kind of bathroom doesn't have a mirror? He glanced around the bathroom for what seemed like the umpteenth time when his eyes locked on a crazy idea. Scratch that, an insane, no, psychotic and zany idea. It wasn't that far out there. I mean, he's got millions of swirlies. That's just quite the stereotype. This shouldn't be any different, right? Fuck it, I hate my life. So, we're gonna acknowledge Danny being drenched in ass water, or the weirdo trio, as they'd been dubbed by students and adults alike, were hanging out in Danny's room with a freshly human Danny. His hair and the color of his shirt looked to have taken a head-first dive into a manhole, and it sure as hell smelled that way. Danny promptly flushed and nervously scratched at his neck. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about the crap I went through today. Oh, come on, man. You can tell us anything. Oof. Tucker started before being interrupted by a sucker punch to the shoulder delivered by Sam. She held out a towel and a clean shirt to Danny, shaking her head at Tucker's comment. What Tucker meant to say was, "It's okay, Danny. You don't have to tell us. But whatever it is, we're here for you," she added with a slight glare to Tucker, now nursing a bruised arm and a bruised ego. "No, guys, it's okay. It's just, embarrassing." Danny let a nervous chuckle, and as he made his way towards Sam, he flashed a grateful smile and went to work on drying his hair, scrunching his nose up at the smell, and discarded his dirty shirt on his bedroom floor. "I do just say, Tucker's right. You reek," she said as she picked up his shirt with the tip of her fingers, nose held as she threw it in his laundry basket. "Yeah, you'd think how much our school loves those faculty bathrooms they'd invest in some kind of professional toilet cleaners, but no." No fucking way. Both Sam and Tucker looked at them with saucers for eyes, curiosity gleaming. "You're in the faculty bathroom?" Tucker asked in awe, gaining him another blow to his already bruised shoulder. "More importantly, you drowned yourself in the shit of an authority figure only to spit in their face by cutting school." She twirled and dramatically draped herself on his bed, forearms to arms, as if hit with a world-shattering epiphany. Oh, the irony of adolescence. Danny chuckled at the dramatics and frowned. "Okay, I did not drown myself in shit. Just shit-smelling toilet water. Seriously, it was worse than our bathrooms. That's saying something." Turned to Tucker and a smile splitting his face. "And yeah, it was magical." Sam picked up a pillow off his bed and aimed it at the two of them. "You guys are fucking dorks." She pointed towards Danny. "Stinky dorks." Oh, at least we're not emo thespians." Tucker threw back alongside with the pillow, only for it to be caught effortlessly by Sam. He yelped and scrambled away as she made her way towards him. Danny could barely control his giggles at the sight of their playful banter. "I am not an emo," she said, between assaulting him. Sometime between Tucker's and Sam's play fight, Danny donned a pillow of his own, catching both of his friends by surprise. The three teens spent the next few minutes battling mercilessly against each other, laughter shaking the space-themed walls of Danny's room. Maybe life wasn't so bad after all. Notes. Sorry for having such a hectic update schedule. I promise I'm working on more content. Also, I'm loving all y'all's ideas in the comments, so if you have any ideas you want to see, feel free to leave them in the comments. Expect a lot of those coming chapters later on. Wink, wink. This idea came from at the 6'7" Impala Dragon Child. I'm so sorry if I screwed that one up. I love AO3 names. They're all wild. Chapter 4, Burning Bridges. Summary. Dash finds out in the worst way possible. Notes. Important note. This chapter has more gore than usual, though hopefully you're here because you can stomach a little gore. It's a-okay to skip this chapter if you feel a little squeamish about it. Basically, rundown for those who are opting out of this chapter. Dash basically runs into Danny munching on a match after drinking what is hinted at to be alcohol. I mean, if we could replace it with gasoline if you're uncomfortable about the idea of Danny underage drinking or drinking in general. After freaking out, Dash sits him down and it's implied that he confesses about his ghostly identity. And for all of y'all, you can skip to the end if you don't want to hear me read this. You can click off the video. Onto the fic. A seemingly invisible branch smacked him, like a slap to the face. He bit back a curse as he tenderly rubbed his injured spot. He shot a glare at the offending branch before walking off, shattered ego in hand. It had been a long day for Dash. To start off, it was a Tuesday, the worst day in his humble opinion of the week, a mockery of the 7-day week system. Mondays always went by quicker than anticipated because your mind still laid out on Sunday's bed and hadn't fully woken up, or maybe it's just because the bad stigma around the day. Up for debate. But Wednesday offered relief of being smack in the middle, a sign that you were halfway through the week. Plus, how could anyone hate the iconic pink/hump day? Thursday's a reminder of what to come. Friday, just around the corner. And Thursday, but biggest cheerleader. Who could deny a sexy cheerleader? Did he have to explain the weekend crew? Friday, Saturday, Sunday were the A-listers of the week, but with less criticism and more fun. But Tuesday laughed in the face of students. You're awake, aware of what's to come. Tuesday, roundhouse kicked you in the face and into the gut, and punching in the gut. and called you all kinds of slurs. Tuesday also marked the date of his physics exams, so maybe he was a little biased. He could never wrap his head around the subject. Give him a poem to analyze, historical event to write a report on, hell, even a sonnet to play. But ask him Newton's laws and he'll respond with a blank face. It wasn't like he didn't study either. He had weekly study sessions at Fenton's house. Well, Danny had been a huge help. That did not stop him from failing this exam. Speaking of Danny, their relationship was slowly but surely getting better throughout the years. After being dragged to therapy by his family, he'd gather up the balls to not only stop tormenting his fellow peers, but formed a well-versed apology, his magnum opus, to Danny. The kid just waved off his apology as if it were like the least of his worries. Water on the bridge, but that only served to fuel his need to get closer to him. No one waved off years of bullying that easy. To say Dash was worried for Danny was an understatement. While the bullying ceased at the end of freshman year, the daily bruises Danny wore didn't. There was a higher probability of winning the lottery than to catch the kid without some kind of injury. And he was skinny, deathly so, malnourished more likely than not. It could be neglect, hopefully not abuse. Dash knew the Fentons were overindulgent in their work, gluttonous even. He really hoped that, amidst all their work, they set aside some time for their children. Ghosts were important, sure, but why have kids if you don't look after them? And by the looks of Danny... But Jazz was a different story. I mean, she seemed to be the mirror image of her brother, both siblings passionate and wise beyond their age, but that's where the similarities seemed to end. Jazz was perfect at everything. Perfect student, perfect daughter. She was perfect, beautiful, graceful, seemed to light up the world around her, where Danny was cold, distant. Jazz radiated warmth and greeted everyone with open arms, where Danny was pale and gaunt, his sharp features. Jazz was vibrant, bright, and soft. Jazz was compassionate and canine. Danny, a cornered cat. That alone raised so many more questions. Did the Fentons favor Jazz? Did they feel Danny and lived up to the legacy Jazz left behind? Did they hate Danny? It sure seemed like they did. What could Danny, sweet, dopey, but kind-hearted Danny, have done to garner such fierce hatred towards them? From his parents, no less. He pushed his thoughts away as he trudged past the park's populated hiking trail to a more obscure one. One of the activities he'd pick up from his therapy days was hiking, although hiking was a generous term to describe the early morning and nighttime walks he went on. It allowed him time away from all the drama at school. All his responsibilities out here, it was just him and the trees. He knew these trees more than he knew the bottom of his bed. This coming from the kid who used to hide under there, afraid of monsters in the closet. Slept under his bed countless of times. Take that as a metaphor, if you'd like. The trees were his family. The trees were his home. The trees listened to his rants and tears and joys all the same. This time venting his frustration over the taunting 50 he'd earned. And they were usually alone, just him and the trees, but Tuesday seemed to have it out for him. Amongst the trees was a boy inhabiting his thoughts. Danny. He was dressed in his usual dark jeans and an oversized NASA tee, a flannel draped loosely over his arms, starting to fall off at any sudden movement. Combat boots dug into the dirt beneath him, with his weight pressed against a rum cherry tree. He was the blueprint for nerdy punks across the Amity Park, stealing glances at the notebook held tightly in one hand. He was taking swigs of water out of a pastel pink hydro flask. He looked peaceful. Feeling like a creep, Dash continued to watch as Danny let his notebook fall from his hands, as he drunkenly fished into one of his flannel pockets. Horror washed over Dash's senses as he watched Danny pull out a matchbook and strike one. Mischief lit up his eyes before he could take a single breath. He watched Danny fill his mouth, but he was now convinced was definitely not water, before taking the flame to his lips. In an instant, flame linked up his face. Dash ran in on autopilot. He dug out his own water bottle from his backpack and spent no time rushing up to his burning friend, dousing him in liquid life, conspicuous to be damned. Fuck. Concern flooded Dash as he took in Danny's appearance. His gait His face was glazed like the grease off a reheated pizza slice. The pepperoni blisters only farther drew their likeness. Singed hair wilted, only to be pushed up by a somehow conscious Danny, only to reveal a melting eyeball like a gauntlet of wine dripped lazily, hypnotizing Dash for only a moment before feeling a tug deep in his stomach. He was caught in a battle between needing to throw up and rushing to help his friend. He didn't win. "Shit, Dash, how long have you been here?" Danny gurgled out, words swishing in his mouth, meaning only salvaged by sheer luck of Dash's presence. If he hadn't been here, Dash... Maybe it's because his name was familiar, but he could have sworn his name spilled out much clearer light. He didn't want to look up. He didn't want to take the chance of throwing up again. Bile still stained his tongue as he asked, "Are you okay?" The question was stupid, obviously. He wasn't okay, but it still hung in the air for a few excruciating seconds. Dash squeezed his eyes shut and turned to Danny's general area and opened his mouth to say something. Anything to cut through the ugly tension between them. But Danny cut first. He had the nerve to ask, "Are you okay?" Dash blanched, but he didn't know what to think of Danny. Was he selfless for asking, or just plain brain dead? "Am I okay?" he drawled out. You kind of just ruined my shoes with your puke. Like, how am I supposed to wash this out?" he said. This time, he didn't imagine it. The words were much easier to decipher, not using with moist vowels and quivering consonants, but clear and coherent thoughts. And was he teasing about throwing up? The same throw up caused by his near-death experience. You just set yourself on fire in the middle of a park nose. You could have died. Midway through his little speech, he dared to look up for only the words to die on his lips. Then he looked fine. Generally, at least. His face was now adorned with a light scar tissue where previously dark burns marked his fair skin. That was kind of the point. At that, the tug on his stomach returned. Tears threatened to spill from his eyes at the very thought of witnessing Danny's suicide attempt. It was much worse than he thought. Danny... Wait, no. Fuck, that came out wrong. Danny sighed and ran a shaky hand through his now unkempt but otherwise fine hair. "Look, Dash, you might want to sit down for this one." He gestured to the tree he had, just a few minutes ago, been resting on. He shakily took a seat in one of the tree's massive jutting roots. Danny followed. In minutes, his view of the world shattered. Everything he thought he'd known about ghosts was thrown out the window as he found himself back in school, freshman year, back to seeing ghosts for the first time, back to earlier today, staring at a blank exam while willing himself to make sense of it. He hated Tuesdays. 2 chapters in 1 week? Okay, man. When I say I'm proud of this chapter, I mean it. I am proud. I did so much research to the point where I had some kind of FBI watch list, because no person Googles, what happens to an eye if boiled? No sane person Googles what happens to eye if boiled. Anyways, this chapter was inspired by Ronan Wright's beautiful idea of Danny eating something flammable and then choking down a lit match with a dash of dash. That's it for this fic. And holy crap, I love it so much. It's a beautiful fic. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this author. Please go visit them on AO3. Give them a kudos for a well-deserved kudo for this amazing chapter. And if you ever feel any suicidal thoughts, please call 988. Anyways, good afternoon, good evening, and night. Drink water, eat foods, and have fun.